90.3 FM. I am Solomon of First Our Top Stories. ECOWAS and EU condemn military takeover in Guinea-Bissau. Abducted Kaduna Anglican priest dies in captivity. Federal government encouraging banditry economy by paying abductors, ADC's Bolaji Abdullahi alleges. Audit exposes 2.7 billion naira contract scandal, abandoned projects and dubious payments in Nigerian police force. Outside Nigeria, over 250 missing after Hong Kong's deadliest blaze in decades. And in sport, Arsenal thumbs Bayern Munich 3-1 to stay perfect in UEFA Champions League. Those are our top stories. Details coming up shortly. We begin the world news at 12 with hard blow for democracy as the election observation missions in Guinea-Bissau set up by the African Union and Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS and the West African Elders Forum have condemned the halt of the announcement of presidential and legislative elections and subsequent military takeover in the West African countries. In a joint statement issued on Wednesday, the election missions deplored what they described as blatant attempts to disrupt the democratic process in Guinea-Bissau. The statement, signed by head of the African Union Election Observation Mission, Philippe Nyusi, head of the ECOWAS Election Observation Mission, Isufu Kamara, and head of the West African Elders Forum, Goodluck Jonathan. The missions called on the AU and ECOWAS to take necessary steps to restore constitutional order in Guinea-Bissau. The people of Guinea-Bissau had gone to the polls on Saturday with both current President Umaru Embalo and the opposition candidate Fernando Diaz, who are front-runners in the election, declaring victory. However, while the people of the country await the final declaration of result on Thursday, military officers announced on Wednesday that they were taking total control of the country, suspending its electoral process and closing its borders. The announcement followed heavy gunfire that rang out near the presidential palace earlier in the day, with men in military uniform taking over the main road leading to the building. In the early afternoon, General Dennis Nkanya, head of the Presidential Military Office, told members of the press that the command composed of all branches of the armed forces was taking over the leadership of the country until further notice. He read the announcement seated at a table and surrounded by armed soldiers. Nkanya, in his declaration, claimed to have uncovered a plan to destabilize the country involving national drug laws that had concluded the introduction of weapons into the country to alter the constitutional order. In its statement following the military takeover, the AU and ECOWAS missions bemoaned that the military announcement came not long after meeting the two leading presidential candidates and extracting their assurances to abide by the will of the people. They further demanded that the armed forces immediately release the detained officials of the Electoral Commission for them to conclude the electoral process. The West African country has experienced 4 coups since independence, as well as multiple attempted coups. The abducted priest in charge of Ebenezer Anglican Church, Ngwam Mejaro, in Chikum local government area of Kaduna State, Reverend Edwin Achi, has died in captivity. The priest and his wife were kidnapped by bandits from their residence in Nisi village near the Kaduna refinery on October 28, 2025 and taken to an unknown location. A few days after the abduction, the kidnappers contacted the family to demand for a 600 million naira ransom before they will release the victims. However, the Diocese of Kaduna Anglican Communion said the cleric is now dead. In a statement, they described the death of Reverend Achi as a painful loss to the entire diocese, the clergy, the church family, and all who were blessed by his Faithful Ministry. The diocese wrote about the late cleric on its Facebook page. The church also said it has continued to pray for the release of the wife of the late priest, who is still in the custody of the kidnappers. The spokesman of the African Democratic Congress ADC, Bolaji Abdullahi, has accused the federal government of making deals with insurgents in a bid to free abducted victims. He stated this while reacting to the release of 24 schoolgirls who were abducted by bandits during an attack on the Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School, GGCSS, Maga, Kebbi State. The interviewer, Shinwo Kimbaloye, reminded the ADC spokesman that he was making allegations of complicity, but Abdullahi doubled down on the deals the government is having with bandits. While reacting to the claim by the Kebbi State Governor Nasir Idris that no ransom was paid to the bandits before the schoolgirls were released, the ADC spokesman insisted that the government had conversations with the bandits. Abdullahi, a former minister of sport, alleged that government was reinforcing the banditry economy. Take a listen.
But what we are disturbed about is that the government is not being honest with Nigerians. We are glad, we are happy that some of the kidnapped people have rejoined their family, whatever the government did. But if you listen to the conversation, if you listen to the rhetoric of government officials, I listened to the IGP of police, Egbetokun, who said, oh, the reason they did not arrest these kidnappers was because they came out by themselves and volunteered by themselves. So what it meant is that when criminals volunteered to come out and surrender their weapons, then they no longer have any liability to suffer under the law. That is one. Secondly, I will listen to Mr. Bayon Onuga, who said, oh, the reason the security forces did not attack the bandits was because they asked them nicely, and those people also say, okay, because you asked us nicely, we're going to. I mean, Bayon Onuga is someone I have a lot of respect for because of the work he has done in the media. But sometimes I think when he talks as if he thinks he's talking to morons. Because when you say that all you did was that you asked them nicely and they released the captives, it insults intelligence of right-thinking people. What is clear to us is that government is making deals with kidnappers. Government is making deals with insurgents. Perhaps because there may be different considerations, but perhaps because they want a quick win, they want something to celebrate, then they will not hesitate to make the kind of negotiation or deals that they are doing. They are doing deals with insurgents. They can't deny that. But what happens that when you make those kind
government is doing deals with?
Oh, I mean, they are doing deals with insurgents.
That's a heavy allegation.
Yes, an allegation that
complicity.
It's not necessarily complicit. It's not really complicity. You see, the problem is that
these are terrorists.
Yeah, but.
Amid rising attacks and abductions by gunmen and suspected terrorists, President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday declared a nationwide security emergency. Tinubu also ordered additional recruitment into the Nigerian armed forces and the police force. By this order, the police will recruit an additional 20,000 officers, bringing the total to 50,000. Tinubu, who said that he had previously approved the nationwide upgrade of police training facilities, authorized the security agency to use various National Youth Service Corps NYSC camps as training depots. According to him, the officers being withdrawn from VIP guard duties should undergo crash training to debrief them and deliver more efficient police services when deployed to security challenged areas of the country. The president also authorized the Department of State Services (DSS) to immediately deploy all the forest guards already trained to flush out the terrorists and bandits lurking in the forest. Tinubu commended security agencies for working together to secure the release of the 24 schoolgirls in Kebbi and the 38 worshippers in Kwara State. He said that his administration will continue to sustain the efforts to rescue the remaining students of Catholic school in Niger State and other Nigerians still being held held hostage. He further called on the National Assembly to begin reviewing Nigeria's laws to allow states that require a state police to establish them. A fresh audit has uncovered the web of contract fraud, abandoned projects, and questionable payments totaling 2,694,855,868 naira 53 kobo within the Nigerian Police Force (NPF). The findings are contained in the newly released Auditor General's annual report on non-compliance and internal control weaknesses in MDAs for 2022, which spotlight widespread violations of procurement laws and financial regulations across multiple police departments at force headquarters. According to the report, at least 14 contracts worth 1.93 billion naira listed as ongoing projects under the 2022 budget were abandoned. Instead of complementing and completing them, rather, auditors found that the NPF went ahead to award fresh contracts not captured in the 2022 Appropriation Act, raising suspicion of deliberate circumvention of due process. The auditors noted that these new contracts had no trace of legislative approval, yet were awarded and fully paid for. In its defense, police management claimed the projects were rollovers dating back to 2017, blaming poor funding and urging that a new budget subhead be created to review and revive the abandoned works. The Auditor General, however, insisted that the General Inspector General of Police (IGP) must recover all affected funds and remit them to the General and Government Treasury. One of the most troubling discoveries involving the construction of 12 one-bedroom ensuite transit camps and rehabilitation works by the police pre-retirement skills acquisition center, Kaduna State. Although 79% of the 141 million naira contract sum was paid out in late 2022, auditors found during the March 2024 inspection that nothing had been built. The International Energy Agency (IEA) has reiterated that Nigeria's gas resources remain pivotal to closing Africa's energy access deficit, where nearly 600 million people lack electricity. The agency emphasized this during a courtesy visit to the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC), aimed at strengthening strategic collaboration on data integrity, energy transition, investment climate, and upstream sector governance. According to the agency, even if Africa fully develops its identified gas reserves, global emissions would rise by only 0.5%, underscoring the minimal climate impact and the continent's right to energy development. It commended the NUPRC for embedding carbonization requirements into upstream project approvals, noting that the Commission's policy of integrating green strategies into field development plans (FDPs) aligned with global funding expectations for low carbon projects. The REA expressed readiness to provide Nigeria access to select market intelligence projects such as the monthly oil market report, host joint workshops on gas monetization and Africa's energy transition, expand technical level data exchanges with NUPRC experts, and support Nigeria's participation in high-level international energy forums. In his remarks, the Commission Chief Executive Engineer Gbenga Komolafe reaffirmed the Commission's unwavering commitment to transparent regulation, investor confidence, and sustainable development in line with the Petroleum Industry Act (PIA) 2021. You are currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll head into the news analysis segment. If you're just tuning in, this is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Joining me to help analyze our news item is Samuel Ame, legal practitioner and current affairs analyst. Barrister Samuel Ame, thank you very much for joining us on the news at 12.
My pleasure, sir. Good afternoon.
So let's go to the first topic for discussion, which is obviously the military takeover in Guinea-Bissau. This is, one may argue, that another blow for democracy in West Africa. What's your thought?
Well, as we all know, the leadership crisis in West Africa and Africa in general is not a new topic of discussion. Our politicians are not helping matters. The poor leadership method in our country currently is even calling for military takeover. Every part of Africa is begging for leadership. And you see, the problem we are having in this country is leadership. If we can get the leaders right, I think nobody will clamor for military takeover. For example, what happened in Guinea-Bissau is a very clear sign of military takeover, because you cannot be ruling a country that is poverty-stricken, full of drug traffickers. That place is the poverty rate is so much, and then the rate of drug trafficking and all sorts of social vices are the high side. So I am not surprised that the military took over, and the electoral, there is no democracy in Africa. I'm very sorry to say that. That thing called democracy is not, what we are experiencing currently is not democracy. So even the recent election in Guinea-Bissau, it's not democratic. You see, there is no democracy. And until we get the leadership right, I am not very sure that the economy and the security situation will be caught. You understand? So for security and economic boom, and industrialization and every other thing that the Western countries are enjoying, I think there must be a change of leadership. But then the military taking over the power from Guinea-Bissau, I'm not sure they will even do better than the democratic leaders, because we've had experiences of military takeover, and at the end of the day, they will perform worse than the democratic leaders in which they took over power from. So the whole gamut of security and development in West Africa and Africa in general boils down to leadership. We don't have leadership. So we must get that right.
You already alluded to that sometimes this military rulership becomes even worse than the democratically elected leadership. There is no guarantee. So it's a flip of the coin. Sometimes there are some military leaders that comes and do something good, but most times antecedent tells us that military leadership is worse. But unfortunately, because of the fact that we're in a dire need of leaders, Africans, one will say, are desperate for any kind of leadership, that they don't care whatever leadership style it's implemented. It's just something. After all, some may argue there are countries that are not democratic, but leadership, the citizens of that country are enjoying lots of benefits. China, Russia, the absence of rule of law, but some may argue that that's an elite problem. But the ordinary citizens of China, the ordinary citizens of Russia, and some other countries are not democratic, are enjoying some good benefits. Some will argue.
Well, from what I've said about democracy or about military or about the form of the types of government being operated by every region, you understand? solution is having a good leader. If you have a good democratic leader, things will turn around. If you have a good Republican or socialist leader, like Chinese, Russia, things will turn around. It boils down to leadership. Okay, look at China. For every corrupt conviction, any leader that is found guilty of corruption is death sentence. If you can do that in Africa, that okay, if any African leader is found guilty of corruption or stealing public funds, is to die by hanging, I think everybody will sit up. So it's not about the type of government being operated. You can operate the best type of government, but if the leadership is not right, things will not go right. So we need to have orientation on leadership, and then to stop this sit tight on power. Once our leaders get to power, they don't want to relinquish. And you begin to wonder, what are they doing on that seat? They are not performing, and they don't want to leave. So it doesn't make sense. So we need orientation on leadership, sir. I still insist, sir.
And if you follow the situation in
You have 1 minute remaining.
if you follow the leadership situation in Guinea-Bissau, hello sir, are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm with you, sir.
If you have if you follow the situation in Guinea-Bissau, the situation there before the military takeover was already giving an indication of military takeover, in the sense that citizens were complaining.
There was every time that military will take over.
The country was poor.
The poverty rate was so high.
The president.
The drug trafficking, the insecurity, the death rate is high. Nothing is working out. There's nothing working out for the people to benefit, to show that at least they have a government. You understand? So I wasn't surprised when the coup happened yesterday. I wasn't at all.
And of course, ECOWAS and AU have condemned the military takeover. And of course,
the ECOWAS is a toothless book. They are failures. They are.
Your call credit has been terminated.
Okay, we do sincerely apologize for that. We'll try to see if we can re-establish connection with our analyst. We do sincerely apologize. We've been able to re-establish connection with our guest, talking about Barrister Samuel Ame. Now, let's quickly go. Hello, sir. Are you there?
Hello, I'm with you, sir.
Okay. Let's go straight to the second talking point, where an abducted priest in charge of Beniza Anglican Church, Ungwan Mijaro, in Chikum local government area of Kaduna State, Reverend Edwin Achi, has died in captivity. Now, this is... I don't exactly know how to frame these, but this is also coming at a time where government has been I mean, it's not just an accusation at this time. There are many indications that government have been having deals with bandits and abductors. I mean, even an ADC spokesman, Bolaji Abdullahi, we played the sound bites earlier on during the news, where he has come out point blank to say government has been making deals with bandits. So why are they denying it? But despite all these kidnappings have not stopped. If anything, they've gone higher, and in some cases, as is this case now, despite these deals, despite the government and for family members paying ransom, sometimes these victims die in the course of this kidnapping, as is the case with this Anglican priest.
Well, it's a very sad news for the death of the priest. May his soul rest in peace.
Indeed.
It's quite unfortunate that he has to lost his life, and we pray that the wife and the child or the children will be rescued without any death or injury. Now the issue is this: if the government has been able to demonstrate to us that the security forces have woken up from their slumbers and they are up to do with rescuing of victims of kidnappers, I think they should also equally extend this military prowess to rescue the wife and child of this late priest. It is quite unfortunate that over the years the government has been showing a lackadaisical attitude towards this incident, the recent warning from US. I think the government must wake up from its slumber and then see how they can curb this situation with immediate alacrity. I'm very pleased with the security meeting yesterday, and I believe that the security agencies will wake up and then do something to rescue this the remaining abductors of these kidnappers wherever they are. We need security in this country.
I mean, this is not the first time they've had security meetings. What would this particular one make any difference?
Yes, the reason why I believe this one will make a difference is that the government wouldn't want US to come in and intervene in their internal affairs, and the earlier they do it, the better for country. It's better for the government, the ruling government. You understand?
Yeah, well,
we all know the situation
I'll say you're more optimistic than most, obviously.
Yes, because of recent past, this kind of
emergency meeting,
proactive or measures have not been taken. With all the rate of insecurities and all that, the government has been giving deaf ears to it. But now that they know that if they don't wake up, then someone else will wake them up. I think there is going to be results. There's going to be results. So I just pray that there will be results. Because it won't be funny that a foreign country will come and help us at this stage when we have all the military apparatus and the equipment and the financial resources to help ourselves. you know.
Meanwhile, the president declared a national security emergency, ordering additional recruitment of the Nigerian Armed Forces and Police Force. By this order, the police will recruit an additional 20,000 officers, bringing it to
the solution to security in Nigeria is not about recruitment. If the government let them go and recruit 1 million police or 1 million soldiers, it will not solve the problem. The problem is getting to the root cause of this insecurity, and it all boils down to our leaders. Until we get this right, recruit 1 million soldiers or 1 million police, it will not solve the issue. So it's just a waste of time. And then how are we sure that the people they want to recruit are not bandits? Because there is no right thinking member of the society at this stage of the insecurity situation that will go to the website of the army to go and apply for recruitment. Me, I won't do that. My children will not do that. You understand? If it were in those days that the security situation is safe, you see people scrambling for recruitment. You know, under the sun, you see them rushing, political godfathers, letters, please, I want to join the military. But now, how many youths are even excited that they want to do recruitment? If you go to the website, how many people have applied that they want to be recruited? Because at the end of the day, it is better you die in your house in hunger than to go and die in the bush with bullets and bombs all over, where your corpse may not even be traceable.
Especially at a time where there have been several allegations.
Yes, nobody is excited about the recruitment because it's not the solution.
Especially now that people have allegations have been everywhere that this government knows the root cause of these.
Exactly, they should go and solve the problem. Once they get the root cause right, everything will be stabilized. They brought these bandits into the country, so they should know how to take them away. Once they are out, there will be security, there will be peace.
What about state police, though? One would have expected that in this extraordinary situation, there will be an expeditious action to make sure even if it means do a quick review of the constitution to quickly make sure that state police start with immediate effect. I know there's a whole lot of complications involved in that, but I mean these are extraordinary times. These are different circumstances where rules can be bent to make sure states that can have state police should do immediately. After all, the state government gets security votes. What do they use the money for other than to be the chief security officers of their various states?
Exactly. Yes, over the years we have been clamoring for the state police because one of the basic ideology behind the state police is that the people who knows their environment, a policeman in my own village that knows the nooks and crannies of my village is in a better position to guide and safeguard against every foreigners that are coming into that village. Are you with me?
With you.
Now, you take an Hausa man from Maiduguri, transfer him to Lagos State, and he doesn't know the environment. He's not acclimatized with the environment. How does it solve security issues? We have been clamoring for this state police. Forget that politicians might want to use this state police as thugs, but are they not using the federal police as thugs as well? So all the things we are hearing about state police, are they not exhibiting it currently? So I still think that the creation of state police is the best option, so that every state will have their own police that knows the environment, know how to comb these foreigners. If anybody is coming in as a gunman or herdsman or bandit, they will be able to salvage the situation. You understand?
These communities are small anyway, so almost everybody knows anybody. So
yes,
there's a new
community policing. Yes. So I think it's a right decision, although at a very late, it's a decision that the government ought to have taken long ago. But at least it's not too late. We still thank God that the president is bold enough to have made that decision. It's a kudos to the president.
But why the delay though? Especially at a time where, I mean, we've talked about the legislature and the executive being and the judiciary rather being an apron of the executive, which
they've been enjoying police protection all these years. They've been enjoying. They don't even bother about the insecurity, the loss of lives, and all that. You understand? So the warning from the U.S. has really changed a lot of orientation of the government. The National Assembly are taking drastic decision to comply with the recommendation of the U.S. You know, do you ever imagine that the National Assembly will bring a bill for individuals to own arms in this country? In your widest imagination, you understand? So I thank God for President Trump, and yes, the warning has made our leaders to wake up from their slumbers. And I believe that with this warning, things will begin to work properly as they should. And then the security will be better than what it used to be.
Okay, thank you very much, Barrister Ahmed. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
That was Samuel Ame, a legal practitioner and current affairs analyst. And to other stories outside Nigeria, Hong Kong firefighters were scouring scorched high-rises Thursday for over 250 people listed as missing, a day after the financial hub's worst blaze in decades killed at least 55 in an apartment complex. Now, over 24 hours after the fire broke out in the 8th building housing estate with 2,000 units, flames are still visible in some windows as crews sprayed water on the blackened exterior. Authorities have begun investigating what sparked the disastrous blaze, including the presence of bamboo scaffolding and plastic mesh wrapped around the structures as part of construction work. Hong Kong's anti-corruption body said it has launched a probe into renovation work at a housing complex hours after police said they arrested 3 men on suspicion of negligently leaving foam packaging at the fire site. The intense flames in 4 of the 8 apartment blocks were finally extinguished, and the fires in 3 others were under control, officials said. Thursday afternoon, 1 building was not affected. Crowds moved by the tragedy gathered near the complex to organize aid for displaced residents and firefighters, part of a spontaneous effort in a city that has some of the world's most densely populated and tallest residential blocks. But the toll continues to increase, and fire service officials told reporters that 51 victims lost their lives at the scene, while 4 died in hospital. And finally, on sports news, Arsenal thumped Bayern Munich 3-1 in a clash of the English and German league leaders on Tuesday to maintain their perfect record in the Champions League this season. The Gunners dominated the second half after 7-year-old Leonard Carl pulled the Bundesliga team level, with Noni Madueke restoring Arsenal's lead and fellow substitute Gabriel Martinelli taking advantage of a huge blunder from goalkeeper Manuel Neuer. Bayern started the match at the Emirates, top of the Champions League table, just above the Gunners, with both teams having won 4 games out of 4. Bayern started the match at the Emirates, top of the Champions League table, just above the Gunners, with both teams having won 4 games out of 4. Both clubs remain well placed to finish in the top 8 of the 32-team league phase of the Champions League, which guarantees automatic passage to the last 16. And that's the world news at 12. But before we go, here again are our top stories. ECOWAS and AU condemn military takeover in Guinea-Bissau. Abducted Kaduna Anglican priest dies in captivity. Federal government encouraging banditry economy by paying bandits ADC's Bolaji Abdullahi alleges. Audit exposes 2.7 billion naira contract scandal, abandoned projects and dubious payment in Nigeria police force. More stories outside Nigeria. Over 250 missing after Hong Kong's deadliest blaze in decades. And in sport, Arsenal thumb buying 3-1 to stay perfect in UEFA Champions League. And that's the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. I am Solomon of FM. Do follow our social media handles at VOP903 FM. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at VOP903 FM. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.